TG Brown, thanks for coming on. I found you on Instagram, like a lot of my guests we've had on, and I didn't realize there was so much going on in Oregon. I didn't know we had authors here. Well, I mean, Portland, yeah, I can see Portland, but local authors to our area,
Yeah.
to like Salem, Dallas area. And you're out of Dallas or in that part of the world?
Yep.
All right. So, because a lot of the stuff you're writing in your book, I'm picking up on. I know this area. I know Salem. I don't, some of these things that you're talking about. And I guess probably someone from New York is like, no big deal. It's down the road.
What's McMinnville?
Yeah.
But we don't get a lot of that in Oregon here. So, I mean, I get a little more tickled, I guess, when I hear stuff that's local to me. Like, I've been there.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in the book now.
That's great. That's what I was hoping for. Yeah, it's funny you bring up like New York. When I was first writing the novel, a lot of people were like, well, maybe you should go to a bigger reservation where there's more like market value, but I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to have it here. I want to have it local to my home, and I love this place. I love Oregon. So that's why I did. And I kept it here because I wanted people like yourself that have grown up out here, and there's not a lot of stories out in this area, and so to read that story and be like, I know what he's talking about, it's like our own inside thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If someone from New York reads it, they don't get it, but
we have a point of reference for it. Yeah.
Right. And it's like all those people in New York, they have their inside thing for eons of years, but now we could have something like that. And that was kind of a part of the reason why I had it set here.
Well, it's such a cool book because, it's one of the things I picked up on was you have the tribal tie-in, the tribal police.
Yeah.
So, we actually got a lot of tribes here in Oregon.
Yep.
And a lot of time we're driving down the road, we didn't realize we've gone through one.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole other world involved with that.
Yep. And in that, reason for that is, again, it's a unique world. I'm myself a tribal police officer, so I based it loosely off of my own experiences, and knowing the culture I'm from, I could use that in the book, and it kind of came to life in my writing. So
yeah. So from your book, you obviously have a background in law enforcement. Yeah. How much of that did you put into your book as far as facts and just your knowledge of it?
There was quite a bit. As far as like it's a mystery crime thriller type book, so a lot of the mystery, the investigations and stuff was very real. I wanted that to feel like authentic because I wanted the readers to tag along with the main character like they were investigating it step for step like he was. So it definitely had a huge factor into the story because I was like, I wanted it to be fiction, obviously, but I wanted it to feel as real as humanly possible. So using kind of my own emotions from what I've experienced, I infused that into the story, and this is kind of what came out. So.
And notice the character has some similarities to you because he's into CrossFit.
Yeah.
You're pretty into CrossFit, I think.
a little bit. Just a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. The main character, Warren Lawson, he is similar to me, but he's definitely like a lot better than me in some ways. He's a lot more heroic.
That's always what you do when you kind of, that's your ideal of
right.
like what you want to be sometimes. When
and that was kind of the point of his character is, I wanted him to be like a character we could strive to become, like somebody that he could kind of give hope in a world that's not very hopeful, like he's kind of in a dark world, like law enforcement is sometimes pretty dark, and him always wanting to do the right thing and training his body and mind to be the best that he could be. I just find those stories super fascinating, and those characters, like I latch onto those characters, like I want to be good, I want to be a good guy, and that's what I was trying to do, but also make him flawed, like very, have his flaws, like he has,
humanize him.
Yes, and so it was a fine line to walk because you want to make him inspiring, but you also want to make him relatable. And that's
you don't want the Superman effect where it's like this guy is just goody two shoes. That's
right.
There's no way for the reader to be able to say, I can kind of see myself in him a little bit.
Right. It was just enough to be like, I could be this character. Like what he does is, sometimes amazing and other times really not good. And so, and I think that's very human because that's day-to-day life. You do stuff really good, and then next day you're not.
Or flat.
Yeah. It was so. Like I said, yes, there are some similarities. I think there's a lot of similarities throughout the book with a bunch of characters that were. I think that's pretty normal in writing. Is that you put yourself. There's a piece of you in each character, and that's what makes them, attached to readers because they're very human. You have to use human aspects to grow the book and grow these characters. I strongly believe that you could write a story, whatever genre it is, but if your characters suck, people are not going to like it. You know what I mean? Like, I actually like just told this story is about my wife. She loves Stephen King, and when I met her, I was like not a big Stephen King fan. I was like horror genre, no, not for me, And she would just tell me, no, it's great. You got to read his books. They're really good.
The movies aren't great,
right? And that was my experience. So I was like, okay, and so I started reading them. And horror is not my genre, but I loved the characters, and so therefore I kept going forward, even though it's not my genre. So skip ahead, I'm writing my own book. I'm like, okay, if I want a crime thriller that might not be for this audience, but if they can attach to my male, female characters, they'll want to ride along with this story. So that was my first priority. Like I have to make these human, likable, attachable characters. So.
And how'd you get into writing? I mean, was this something you've always done growing up, or is this something new that you kind of jumped into?
Yeah, it's pretty much since I grew up. When I was young, like in third grade, I remember they'd tell us to write a story, for homework, and they'd be like, you only need 2 pages. And I would be the kid writing like 16 pages because I have like a story arc here and I have a character that, I was just like, so.
And like he wrote another novel.
Yeah, they like teachers would come over to me like, Tyler, you could stop that. I'm there with my pencil just writing away. I think it was always just something that was in me. I was very imaginative as a kid, and I always liked stories, and I always like pop culture always had a huge effect on me growing up. I think it always did. And then once I grew up and, was going on the path I wanted to go on, I kind of came back to it. I circled around to it because I felt like I needed to live life a little more before I became an author. I feel like if you try to write a book when you're 21 and you haven't experienced the world a lot, the stories come off like that. You know what I mean?
They can, yeah.
Right. And so first I wanted to be a cop and I wanted to be a CrossFit athlete. Like that was on the back burner. And so I was like, if I need to experience these things as an athlete, as a police officer, and see the world. And so that's what I did. And so I went out there and I did that. And that was always my goal, is like be a cop, be a CrossFit athlete, be a writer, be an author. So author was always there, and I always had writings that I did. I actually wrote 2 books before Tribal Honor. They will never see the light of day. They were terrible. I will never burn pile. I read them and I was like, this isn't
nothing you can just revise later on.
No. I'm just I'm saving all you guys the trouble there.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Like I said, to answer your question, pretty much my whole life has revolved somewhat around writing.
Yeah. So I guess I can see what you mean. Like you could research anything and write about it.
Right.
But to be able to have that seasoned, backstory and kind of know what someone may or may not do in a novel or how they would react to a situation, it's a little bit harder to inject into something if you don't have any experience going behind it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like I said too, like going on those experiences, you meet people that affect you deeply in good and bad ways, and I think being a police officer, you see pretty much every type of human being. So from good to bad, I've worked with some of the best human beings in the world, like some just stellar individuals. And then I have dealt with people that are like on the opposite end of that spectrum,
Yeah.
But when you write that story, even those people on the opposite side of the spectrum, you can see how they got there. Because if you experience it enough and you see this story over and over again, and usually they want to tell you why they got there, then you can infuse that kind of thinking in your novel. So that way it's not so black and white. And so, it was very, very helpful. And I don't know if I was doing that consciously. I think I was just living my life, and it kind of just was somewhere in the back of my mind was like, oh, this is stuff that I could use
I'm going to
one
file
day.
this away.
Yeah. So it was very, very helpful. And like I said, it continues to be helpful to this day. Like I love being a police officer. I'm going to keep doing that and writing too. It's in a way, it's almost like they bounce off each other, if that makes sense. Because it's like, it's very stressful life here. And then I write about it and it's very cathartic. And then I can do it again, so even if it's fiction, it's still kind of a cathartic feel to writing. So every time I go to writing, my mindset is, I love this. Like I freaking love this, and so, so I can see myself writing till I'm 90. Like, this is kind of where I'm at.
Very cool. So how does your style work as far as when you go in to write something? Is it just all up in your head and you just got to get it out, or do you have to storyboard?
Yeah. So it's changed. With Tribal Honor, I actually just wrote from the heart. Like it was just like, I don't know how I did it, because after I wrote Tribal Honor, I tried to do that again with my second novel. and I got stuck, like super
Oh.
stuck, like writer's block. And
I was
like,
gonna say writer's block.
I was like,
yeah.
where am I going with this story? Like my thoughts weren't organized, so I stopped. I started outlining it. So now I outline all my novels. It's almost like a map to where the story's going, where the character arcs are, and all of that, because it keeps I'm very ADHD, so I'm like,
You have the red string attached
Yes.
on the wall, like it's
Yes.
making sense now.
yeah, I'm like, I like so now I do that. Like I said, to this day, I don't really know how I wrote Tribal Honor without any sense of plan, other than it's going to be emotional, it's going to be impactful, it's going to have, and the only thing I had in my mind was that honor is going to be a big theme in the novel, like honor, and justice and vengeance, all that was going to be a theme, and I'm just writing characters based around that theme, and that's what I did with Tribal Honor. But as far as now, it's all planning. It's really pre-thought, processing,
Strategic.
Yes, it's very analytical now, which is not a word I'd usually use to describe myself. But with stories now, I'm very much, because I learned my lesson. I got there and I was like, I'm 100 pages into this.
You're like, what am I
What
doing?
am I doing? Like, I was like, yeah, so.
Is there
Yeah.
pressure with it too? Is that part of it? It's kind of, it's like, I did this, now I've got to go above and beyond for the next one?
Yes and no. I think I see this a lot in movies and books too. It's like the sequel's always worse than the first one. You know what I mean? And I think that happens because like the train of thought is, I got to be better. I got to make it better. And so what I focused on with the sequel that are hopefully coming out soon is just focus on this story. Make it the best story it can be. Focus on this character. Don't try to compare it to Tribal Honor. It's a different story. And so that's what I did. And so I think the only thing that I kind of had in the back of my mind that was kind of relative to that question was I have to prove I can do this again. And I don't know why that is there. I mean, I probably don't have to prove it to anyone really other than myself.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be a one-trick pony. I want to write lots of novels that people read throughout the years, and so it was like in my head I was like, I have to prove to myself I can do this again, and that's going to be the same in the next book. I have to prove that I write another story that's just as captivating as my first one.
I can see what you mean by, some of the sequels to books and novels.
Yeah.
A lot of times they have one idea and they try to recreate that exact same format in the next book.
Yeah.
So it's almost either identical to what the first book was, or they go completely off the rails. And none of the two books, they look like they're written by two different authors.
Yeah.
So making that jump from one, so it's like I can read this book cover to cover, put it down, pick up the next book, and it feels like I'm reading a whole new story that's almost a continuation of what was before with the same character.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I didn't want. I was like, I mean, obviously you have to do something different.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have the same feel, I guess. You know what I mean? The same world, the same characters,
Same flow.
and kind of build on what we built on in the book one, instead of, we got to make it bigger and more explosions and more, you know what I mean? It's just like, that's not what's going to get people. It's going to get people is their feelings and their emotions. And
They want to reconnect with the characters.
Yes, they want to see where they're at in this stage in their life and how they're going to deal with these problems that come.
Go even deeper with the character and finding out a little bit more.
Yeah, and so I think there's a new characters I introduced, sure, and so that's different. But like I said, as far as that, it's just more focused on, okay, where are these characters going to go from here and how do they react to these problems? And so I think my stories are very personal. Like they're not saving the world. Like, you know what I mean? Where we're at in the Willamette Valley, it's not a big area. There's not going to be a nuke attack that we got to stop, right? So like when I was writing these stakes, you have to have high stakes in a story. So what I was like, we're going to write it very personal. Like in Tribal Honor, Warren's a cop and he's trying to save people and that's what he's doing. But really this character Marvin comes in and he's just messing with his world. Like this guy comes in and he's just like a thunderstorm, just ripping apart everything. And Warren's trying to keep himself together, and try to do what's right. And that's very captivating, more so than I have to save the day. I think it's very real. We all have those people in our life that come in like a wrecking ball, right? And so that's what I focus on in my stories. That's how I write, and that's kind of what I've been going with, and hopefully it's going to keep doing well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess for people that haven't actually read the book, can you give like a book cover, like synopsis, just so they know what we're talking about here?
Yeah. So Warren Lawson's a tribal police officer. He's been on the job for a few years. He's still relatively young and learning how to do the job. He gets this case that seems kind of cut and dry. It sounds like it's like an elder abuse type case. And so as he goes to investigate that case, he starts to see there's a little more wrong than he even imagined at first. And so he kind of dives into it, and there's kind of some conspiracy happening. And then in the meantime, you have a couple Native American brothers who are families to the victim, and they are very tough individuals that he has to contend with because they want to handle it differently than the police want to. And then from then on, it kind of chaos kind of ensues from there on. Yeah.
Sounds like something you might happen to every day on the job. You come into a situation, you got two different parties that you're going to have to like separate, and someone's always, the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was kind of that's spot on. That's exactly why I had those characters in the book. I think a lot of stories like police procedural crime thrillers, they don't really touch on, at least in my experience, they don't really touch on the victims, like the how they deal with it, because it's very traumatic. It's honestly the worst day of their lives when they're seeing me, unfortunately, or any police officer for that matter. So I wanted to shed a little light on that, and also with it being about elder abuse, I feel like that's a crime that's not talked about ever. I don't really see anything on the news about it or pop culture, movies, whatever. So I wanted to shed that light on there and almost, like I said, make it feel real to people so they could see, like, oh, there's signs to this. Like if you're out and about, you see an elder that's, possibly having that happen to him, you'll kind of see in the book, like, oh, that's very real. That's very hits home.
Yeah.
So that was part of it too. There's, like I said, two sides of each story, and then in the middle there's part of the truth. So it's there's no black and white. It's all gray area. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So along with tribal honor, do you see yourself going in other directions as far as writing goes?
Yeah. I have lots of plans. There's a story I'm working on that I want to do a supernatural thriller. That's I want to write stories not only for me but for family members that I love. So the supernatural thriller would be more so for my wife, Stephen King lover.
Supernatural cop.
It's gonna be mixed in there because I thought I had an idea that popped into my head. And honestly, there's just like stories I've had in my life on the job that like people do stuff and there's no explanation. And I thought, man, that would be a good setup for a supernatural thriller of something of that nature happening that could happen in our world but has no explanation. And so that was kind of what I was thinking. And then I want to write a Western for my father because he loves Westerns. I grew up watching Westerns with my dad.
My dad loves Westerns too.
So I have plans of doing a Western kind of standalone novel and a supernatural kind of standalone, as well as continuing the Warren Lawson series. So yeah, that's like I said, and then I'm kind of coming up with other ideas as a kid. I talked to other family members like, hey, what's your genre? Like I talked to my sister and my mom. They're like, we don't really care, but they don't really have a genre per se. But yeah, so that's kind of what I want to do as well as my main project though is the Warren Lawson series.
Yeah. I know a lot of authors get they get stuck in their genre a little bit. They don't know how either maybe they love it so much and that's all they like to write about. Mm-hmm. But you don't see them kind of going in and out quite as much. Like we were talking about Stephen King. You don't really see Stephen King writing.
He doesn't write love novels.
Love novels or cookbooks or anything like that. But I mean, for him, it's worked out great. But I mean, I could see if I really love writing, maybe I want to try this project and go over here and try something else.
Yeah, no, and also it really tests you. Like, because you can these books, like I love writing them, but like the police world's something I'm very comfortable in. Like I know that world inside and out, but like a supernatural world is very foreign to me, and so like I really have to focus and think and research and write and really thinking, and it challenges me. And then when I go back to writing crime thrillers, I'm like so much more proficient because I've almost stretched my brain to that other aspect I wasn't stretching before. And same with Westerns. Like Westerns are a different genre. Like they're similar, but they're very different times, different, cultures, different everything. So yeah, I think that's very, if you want to be a really good writer, you do have to test yourself and kind of put yourself out there and see, what, if it works or not. And, like I said, overall, I think it's just going to help you become better, just like anything else. If you stay in your comfort zone, you don't really get better. You know what I mean? If you go out and test yourself, even if it's scary, you're probably going to grow from that, even if you fail. So, that's just kind of my mindset on it. So,
I mean, you're doing CrossFit. I mean, how do you find time to write? I mean, because are you writing at midnight?
Oh,
is that the time usually you write at, or?
Yeah. So, my schedule's kind of crazy. So my hours change a lot in the police world. Like sometimes you're working night shift,
Yeah.
other times day shift, sometimes swing shift, and then there's call outs and stuff like that. So right now my schedule would be I wake up in the morning, I write for 2 hours, then I go to the gym for another 2 hours. I come back, I stretch, recover, eat, spend time with my wife, my stepkid, try to see my parents if I can. And then at night, I try to relax and then I do like research stuff like reading, things like that. And that's pretty much my life. There's about 6 hours there of just like putting to my goals. And then on work days, it's like wake up right, work out, go to work, come back, try to do something with the wife or relax or whatever.
So you write every single day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that more for like practice, or are you working towards some sort of goal with that?
Yeah. So typically I try to go to like 2,000 words a day. That's kind of what I try to do. Not every day is that. Some days are busier than others. But I always try to do writing every day because I think there's this term I like. It's like consistency, not perfection. So like just be consistent in what you're doing. Like if you're building your craft, build a little bit every day. So if it's 5 minutes, okay, that's all I got that day, and I'm gonna have to put 4 hours into CrossFit or 16 hours into police work, whatever, because there's only so many hours in a day, right? But
So did you see The Shining?
The Shining,
Yeah.
Yes.
So you're not at a typewriter writing murder
No.
on the thing, right? Okay.
No, like I said,
He's like, I'll be out in a bit.
oh my, that's hilarious. No, I'm not there yet. But if I am,
I'm not there yet.
I mean,
it's coming.
I got a therapist's wife, so
That's good.
I mean that's a good step.
She's not gonna like find a bunch of stack of papers somewhere.
Yeah.
He's wrote 10 novels. Oh crap.
She knows all the warning signs, so we're good. No, like I said, I think the writing is just like a form of therapy for me. Even though it's something that I take serious and it's a profession I'm in. It's also therapy. It's even if I'm writing a Western, I know it sounds weird, but it's like if you're infusing your emotion into characters, you're translating that onto page and it's getting out. It's actually it was really hard for my wife to read Tribal Honor. For a while there, she didn't want to read it, and it's not for what you're thinking. It was not like she was like, "Oh, it's gonna suck." She was just kind of like, she's so in tune with emotions, her job being a therapist. So, she knows that stuff that I'm putting on page, I've probably experienced in some shape or form.
Okay.
And she doesn't like that. So, anyways, but I'm not sure where I was going with that, but
it's therapy though.
But overall, it's therapy, and so I feel better afterwards. I feel like if I don't write, I'm probably, even if I work out for 2 hours, I'm still like my mind's still spinning on something. And that's probably because I have ADHD.
Just jot something down right in the middle of a workout or something like that. Is that pops in your head?
Yeah, I've been in bed and I had an idea. I sometimes I'll dream and I'll have this dream sequence in my head somehow or another. Like my conscious is talking to me. I know it sounds wild, and I'll just wake up out of bed and I'll have my notes on my phone. And I'll be like, "That's a great book idea," and I'll just write it and I'll file it away.
I try to, I have this awesome sounding dream, and then I try to explain to my wife later, like, "Okay, that sounds really dumb. That was really dumb." It's like, it never really comes out right for me.
No, majority of the time it's like that for me. But like every now and then I'll have something happen or just I don't even know. I can't explain it really. I'll just be sitting there and just my thoughts going, and I'll be like, God, that's a good plot. Or I'll hear a song and I'll think of like, I don't know, like an action sequence with that song, and I'm like, that would be cool. And then I build like a story around that, and I'm like, that's crazy. It's so weird. I don't know. It's like,
so you get it out of your head.
Yeah.
You bank it for later.
Yes.
And then maybe you touch back on it at some point.
Yeah. Usually the rule I go by, because I have so many thoughts going on up here, is that if that idea keeps coming back. If that idea is like this plot keeps coming back, if it keeps coming back and it just persists, it's like my brain is telling me like I need to file this away. Otherwise, I've had ideas where it's like, that's cool, and then the next day I'm like, that was terrible. It was like, so anyways, so that's kind of the rule I go by there. Yeah.
See, we're on the opposite spectrum here because she gets up super early, and her mind is racing at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I'm like, do you want to talk about our finances?
Yeah, she wakes me up like, what? And I'm the opposite. I'm a night owl, so I start coming up with ideas at night, and so I guess we kind of balance each other out. It's just like when she's asleep, I want to talk to her about all this cool stuff I just thought about, and when she wakes up, then we get to talk about finances. So
He
that's
likes
fine.
to, as I'm like getting ready to drift off, he's like, okay, so let me tell you about this really important thing. And I'm like, what? What's happening right now? He's like, that's how I feel in the morning. I'm like, this is horrible.
Oh, that's so relatable. So relatable.
I joke we use he used one side of his brain, I use the other side, and together we make a whole brain. So
I'm gonna use that. Yeah, that is a perfect way to explain it. Yeah, we're the same. I'm a night owl too, and so like she's trying to sleep, and I'm like, honey, like I gotta tell you about this.
I sympathize with your wife.
Yes,
I'm just hug her.
Yeah. Oh,
and then let her go to bed.
Yeah. Sometimes she's like, I'm trying to sleep.
So are you more like creative and she's more analytical, or is it you guys both kind of creative?
Yeah, I think we're both kind of a mixture of both. She's analytical at times, and I'm creative at times, and we kind of switch roles pretty fluidly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we both know each other so well. Like, okay, this aspect of life you're way better at than me, and I'm going to listen to you, or vice versa. It's like, and so that's just worked well for us. Like if when one's kind of getting overloaded with stuff, and okay, I need to be there for them, and so on, and yeah.
Is there any point that you're writing that you're like, whoa, I need to put that down a little bit because it's getting either a little too heavy, a little too deep, or anything like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely had that a few times. Some of the hardest scenes I wrote, I was like, I gotta just stop.
Break them down.
Yeah, because I mean, some of them are super tragic, in the book, and so I was like, but I knew if I didn't make them tragic, it wouldn't pay off later. I mean, if that makes sense, because I was like, if I don't make it authentic, if I try to step away here and overstep other areas, it's not going to jive. It's not going to connect, and it's not going to feel real in that world. So I had to do it. I had to the scene that comes to mind in my head is when he finds out what happened to the tribal elder in the book. That was like super hard because I've seen that a lot.
Do you have to censor yourself a little bit because it's like it goes from like enjoyable for the reader to like, but then it goes into like, no, this is too real. It's like when you see, a horror movie, it's like, that's fake.
Right.
They make it to a certain point where it's like, yeah, it's gory, it's fake, but it's fake. And then when you see something in real life, it's like, yeah, that's really disturbing because I know that's real.
Yes. And that was the struggle, right? It was just like, you trying to make it feel real because I'm trying to shed a light on this issue. And so you have to do it. And so if, like I said, everything I did, I just take a break, come back, and just kind of get through it. And then not only that, you have to edit it. You have to go through it over and over again. Yeah, it was tough. It was real tough. But like I said, at the end of the day, I think the message got across without being too much. You know what I mean? It was definitely on that line of like uncomfortable, and that was the point of that scene. But that's kind of what you have to do. That's how you express yourself as an author, and that's my style. I'm a gritty writer. I write in the real world, and it's not for everybody, and that's fine. But that was what I was going for, and so. Yeah, like I said, it was really hard. There's certain scenes there too, and there's a topic officer involved shootings. Like that's, I wanted to have that in the book because I feel like a lot of stories are just like cops shoot people and they're fine the next day, and that's not the case. I mean, it's the worst decision you could ever make, and so that's what I wanted to put in the book too. I wanted that infused in there, that realism, and that just I think people latch onto that. Like at least that's my hope, is that they feel those people. They're very human. They're doing this job because that's what all of us are. We're just normal dudes and women trying to do this terrible job sometimes, and sometimes it's misunderstood, whether it's in the media or we're wearing these pretty uniforms that kind of make us shine, but we go home and we have our issues just same as anybody else, and same mental health problems and whatnot too. So yeah, that was definitely tough, but worth it, I think, in the end.
So I'm really curious about, like, you've got your book written. What do you do from there? I mean, how do you? That's a whole nother thing that I think people don't really look at when they see an author as all the steps you have to go through.
Yeah.
To get your book written, to get it published, to get someone to actually read your book, and like, you need to take out these sections here, or you need to rewrite these sections.
Yeah.
Tell us how that process went for you.
Yeah, so I started looking up editors online, just trying to find the best ones that I could.
Do you literally just Google like book editors?
Yeah,
Or how, I mean,
okay, I'm trying to think of how I found them. I think there was just like an Editors Guild website I
Okay.
found that looked like more legit
This
than
looks
others.
legit?
Yeah, and so I was
they
like,
should read my book.
yeah, I was like, okay, and so then they have their rates and their like resume and stuff, and so I was kind of just looking at them like, okay, well, that one, nope, not that one. Like that one doesn't read thrillers. Like that one, I'm trying to find the one that's more specific for the genre. So then you find like there's a developmental editor, and they just focus on your story. And so they don't worry about grammar or any of that. They just basically go, okay, this part of the story is good. That part doesn't make sense. This part needs work, and so on and so forth. So they just critique the story. And so you give it to them. They send it back to you. They give you a whole letter. You're like, okay, cool. And then you go in there and you can choose to fix them or you can choose to ignore them. I choose to fix them because I trust my editors have been doing it way longer than me. So, so then that process is done. You have your story all ironed out, and then you find the editor that's going to help you make sure, like, the grammar's good. It looks professional. Everything's all squared away there. And so they go through it, and if they find stuff, they send it back to you and go, hey, here, fix these. And you go, okay, cool. And sometimes even those editors will give you, like, different verbiage on lines to make it sound, whether it's more emotionally impactful or just sounds more, like, neat, and so... So then they go through there, and then after that, you have those two done, and then you do a proofread yourself to make sure everything's good. And then after that, you have to find someone to help you publish it. And so as a first-time author, that's super hard nowadays. Yeah. The landscape's really changed. Like we were talking about Stephen King earlier, when he was, trying to get published, you just go into an office of a publishing house and go, hey, here's my work. And they go, oh, yeah, I'll take a shot on you. And they'll sign you, and then they'll publish your work for you. Well, nowadays, with social media and such, it's like they expect you to have a following already as an author before you even...
Social media, they want you...
Right. Because they're like, well, you can do that on your own, and I want to see if you're worth worth the money we're going to put into you. So I tried to get published a few times, and people were like, no, like, who's this Oregon guy, And so then I found this lady named Stacy, and she's out of Idaho, and she specifically helps people... like first-time authors get published. And so she actually goes through a whole course and stuff like that, and you pay her a fee, and she helps you with like book covers, book design, all that stuff, and then she will like help you get it on Amazon and all the bookstores and all the outlets. It's called like indie author publishing, kind of like that.
Okay.
And so that's the route I ended up taking because I found her, and she was just a lovely woman, just totally like helpful. Anything I needed, she was like, yep, gotcha. Like she was a 10. And so anyways, and that's the route I went, and I'm happy I did, because after that, like learning from what I learned from Stacy really helped me like get the book out there, because she's like, you're gonna be an entrepreneur now, like you're a business, you have to like sell your book, you have to go out there and be okay with people knowing you.
You're like the face of your book now,
right? Because like beforehand I was pretty like guarded. I was like kind of like, okay, I can't expose myself. Like I had this like fear in my head that like, okay, I gotta just keep my cards close. But when I met her, she was kind of like, no, people gotta get to know you. Like you have to get out there. And so she really helped me with the idea, like that's okay. And then,
which a lot of authors probably, they're not, I mean, that's the reason why they write is they're more behind the scenes.
Oh yeah. You save that shit for the paper. Like you're not, you know what I mean? You don't want to be sharing that with everybody. So, yeah. And so, when she, was like telling me that's what you got to do. You got to get in front of cameras. You got to take pictures, and sell, kind of almost like selling your personality.
You have to promote yourself, yeah.
So yeah, and she was awesome. Like I recommend her to any author that's trying to get their feet, in that world, because once you get in there, then you can kind of really start building. And she like walks you step by step like a publisher would. And it's just a great service what she does. So.
Did you ever read Dune or see the movies?
I've seen the movies. Haven't read Dune, but I hear it's like one of the best books ever made. So I'm gonna have to read it.
So like, did you hear the story behind it? Is the guy he wrote the books. He's trying to find a publisher. No one wanted to publish. He said the book's too big. People aren't into this genre anymore. Yeah. And he finally found a company that publishes car manuals. And the guy liked the book, and he said, I'll publish it for you. So it was published underneath a car manual publishing house, and it took off.
That is all. I love stories like that. Yeah. I do. It's just like because it's like those passion projects that come to fruition. Like I love that. I love like when somebody comes along and goes, you know what, I'm gonna help you like get your passion out there. It's part of the reason like I said, I was telling you before we started the podcast, like how much I think it's great that you guys have this like platform for people. Like that's just so cool to me that you guys are like, yeah, like I'm going to invite people in and I'm going to give them that platform to talk about. I just think that's awesome. Anyway.
I mean, it's hard to find like, I mean, like, I think I was talking to you, like, I didn't know like so much was going on in Oregon.
Yeah.
Until you actually start, digging into like, oh, this company's out of Oregon. This author's out of Oregon. So it's fun to be able to go out there and find these like hidden gems that probably aren't getting a lot of exposure normally because they're maybe not in the right area. They're not out of LA or New York or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's awesome. So you got it published, and then we were talking about getting it onto like like the spoken version of it on like Audible.
Oh yeah, so like narrators, it's kind of similar process. So Stacy helped me with that. She was like, "Hey, these are the websites that you can find the best, the most reliable narrators." So I just went on there, and they have like samples from other books that they've read from, and you listen to them, and you kind of like, okay, yeah, I don't like that one, and you see their fee, and you kind of go from that, and then you actually pick I picked like 5 of them, and I was like, all right, and so then they all accepted, that the doing an audition for the book, and then you send them what parts of the book you want to read. So then they read it and you listen to them, and during that process is actually a lot of fun because I love audiobooks, and like my dad loves audiobooks, my wife loves audiobooks, so like I'd get them in there and be like, what do you think of this guy? And they were like,
he's okay.
So it was like very like it felt like collaborative, like we're all doing it together. So then we found Andrew Tell, and he was just a 10. Like he nailed everything. Like I had that feeling about him, and then my wife listened to him. She's said the same thing, and if she says the same thing, then I'm on trail for something good.
Yeah.
And then my dad too, and so had to go with him, and then went. Like I said, we just negotiated terms, and after that, you give him your paper, and he goes about it. Sometimes they reach out to you and go, hey, like, how do you want me to read this, or what are we thinking? This is what I was thinking. Are we on the same page? But honestly, he was pretty much on the same page the majority of the time. I think there was just a few scenes where he was like, that was pretty deep. Like, like
he's like, are you okay?
Yeah, there was some, like, he actually was like, that was hilarious. They're like, it's kind of cool. He was, I think he's down in Los Angeles, so it was this whole cell phone, contact, but no, it was a really good experience. So.
Because I think,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I think people that don't like read audiobooks, they think it's just narration, just flat narration, but they put their emotion into it.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to read like some of the women's characters, so maybe they'll change the inflection in their voice a little bit, and to try to get to match that.
Yeah, no, it was like a whole production. Like I don't really fully understand it, but like he was like telling me like there's like sound engineers and all this, like it's like a production almost, like they put it together and make the cuts and edits and all that stuff just like anything else. But yeah, it seems like there was it was not just the narrator, like he has people working for him.
It's like a whole
too.
team.
Yeah, and they spend all day, some books are 10, 12 hours, some of them are 8, they all vary. So yeah, he's, like I said, it's tough. I wouldn't want to do it. Like people were telling me to be the narrator for my book. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I would ruin it. Like I'd be that boring narrator because I'd be trying to read every word, and then me being dyslexic, I'd misread something. Anyway, but yeah.
So do you plan on him being the reader for future books,
or
how does that work?
Yes, that's at least as far as Warren Lawson's books. Yes, because the reception for him's been good. People that have been saying, like, reaching out to me, like, that narrator did a great job. I was, honestly, I was like, if people didn't like him, I probably would have made a change early on, like right now. But it's been good feedback, so I'm gonna stay with them because nothing makes me more mad than when I'm listening to a series and they just change a guy that I totally latched on to.
And you're like, who is this?
Who's this guy? Yeah.
And I just remember the name. It's R.C. Bray is the other one that I listened to, who's the narrator.
Okay.
And so there's been sometimes where like, I want to see what other books he's narrated. So people can get hooked on the narrator too.
Definitely.
And they say, well, what's next up on the line for that one?
Yeah.
And so, but I've been in some of those series of books, and all of a sudden they change the narrator for like one of the books, and it's like, why would they do that? Now it just changes everything.
Oh, I know. And he could be a great narrator. I mean, he really could, but you're just
you already have this voice in your head.
Yeah, this preconceived notion, like, no, he's terrible. I want my other guy back. Like, so Yeah, not going to do that to anyone. So I mean, I'm going to keep with him no matter what.
That's got to be exciting though. Like it was probably like the longest wait ever for him to get through
Oh,
the
yeah.
narrating,
How long does that
get it
take?
back.
So it took him like, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months,
Oh,
I
that's
think.
not bad.
He was very thorough though. Like he was like, I could release it now, but like I want to make sure we end this scene. I get this scene. And I'm like, yeah, take your time. Like that's a great thing about a first book. You don't have a deadline. You're just like, no one's. You're just kind of like, yeah, just get it done whenever. I mean, I did kind of have a deadline in my head because I wanted it released on my mom's birthday. It's kind of like a gift to her. So
Aw.
I was kind of like, yeah, I kind of want to get out there. But even so, he like you said, it was a couple months, and like he was just really good about like, hey, like this is what I'm doing. We actually had like a crazy thing happen when we were when he was producing it. We use a website as kind of like a middleman, and that website like went down, like shut up, like went out of business or something. It was crazy.
Oh, it went out of business?
Yeah, and so
Not like it's down for a day. It's like it's down
no, it's
forever.
like done. Like it was just done.
Is like a chat, like a forum type thing that you can talk back and forth.
Yeah, so like he has like my email and my number and stuff.
Okay.
So he like texted me one day, and I remember this because I like went to my wife in a panic because I was like, I lost him. Like we're done. Like this audiobook's not happening.
He hates me.
because he just sends me. He's like, yeah, it was Find Away Voices was the name of the company we're using. He's like, they're shutting down. But he's like, I still want to do this project, and I can try to find something else. I mean, I didn't read the email thoroughly. I just saw that the company's shutting down, in my
You just
brain
went into panic mode?
I was like, oh my god,
Company's shutting down.
Yeah.
I'll find something else to do besides read your book.
Yeah, I just, well, there's that like almost like soft insecurity that's like, I'm a new author and this guy's an established narrator. He's just gonna be like, it's not worth all the trouble. But no, he was great. He was like, no, I'll find you another company that we can use, and I'll send you all the links and stuff, and I'll send you the contracts. They're pretty similar. And I was like, all right. So he did it, and yeah, it was great. Like I said, I lucked out. A lot of it's luck. Like, so I got really lucky with the people around me.
So start to finish, writing the book, getting it through all the process. How long do you think that took you?
Well, I actually wrote the book probably like back in 2020. I think I wrote it. But then like getting it off its feet and published probably was another 6 months. So I'd probably say it's about a year process typically. But I think it just varies depending on, like I said, I was so like new to everything that it was just hard to like, I didn't want to just overcommit to something that I shouldn't be committing to, right? Because that's pretty easy when you're new. So that was kind of the tough thing, like doing your research, like make sure we have the right person, the right company, the right everything.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we didn't have the right company, but we had the right guy for the narrator, thankfully. But yeah, so anyways, and yeah, so I'd say it's about a year. I'm thinking with this next book it'll be quicker, and I'm hoping to make it quicker and quicker as it goes along. So
because everybody gets that thought in their head, I could write a book. I want to write a book.
I tried when I was like 12. My friend and I, we were going to write one over the summer and like exchange it. And I got like 9 pages and she got 1. So that flopped.
Oh man.
I'm like, I'm going to go sell houses now. I'm not going to write a book anymore.
I think you should write that book.
No, couldn't even tell you what it was.
I am all for trying to help people become writers, man. Like,
I'm pretty sure I was plagiarizing and just copying from another book. This is a great story.
Yeah. I think they got filters for that now.
That's awesome.
Do you ever, speaking of that, do you ever like wonder like, oh, am I taking from something else and I don't even realize it? How do you?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know. Not
Yours
really.
is very specific.
Yeah, I feel like mine's pretty specific, but there's definitely like inspirations you take from other like authors or like even movies or TV shows or something. Because I kind of sometimes were like kind of wanted to like almost be like a shout out to certain genres, like just because those authors helped me become a writer, and so so sometimes whether it was a reference or something like that, just a small one, I kind of snuck it in there just because I wanted to do that. But no, for the most part, it was all pretty authentic. It was all just like how I felt, and just went from that. I mean, as far as the styles though, I mean, I would say I took a lot of style points from like other writers because I'm like, oh, I really like how he described that, but then I would put it in my own words because you never want to copy someone, right? It just takes away from the whole story. So I usually would see something in a book and like the way something's worded or described, and I'm like, how would I make that prevalent in Oregon, or something like that. And then that's how I kind of, as far as using other works, because it's very like, you don't want to be that author that gets like caught plagiarizing someone, right? So I'm like, okay, don't copy it word for word, like make it your own.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of writers do that. I think that's pretty common.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite author?
Oh man, That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Just putting you on the spot. Who's your favorite?
I love
top 3.
Oh God, I mean, I'm gonna get top 15. I mean, at least I read so much. I mean, I love Michael Connelly, Jack Carr. I mean, gotta have. I mean, I love David Baldacci. Stephen King's obviously up there. Vince Flynn before he passed away, but he was a great spy thriller guy. Mark Greaney, he did. I don't know if you ever saw The Gray Man on Netflix. He wrote that book.
What, James Patterson?
James Patterson. I like James Patterson. He's not. I wouldn't say he's my favorite, but he's pretty good. I really like Michael Connelly because he nails police work.
My mom loves Michael Connelly.
Yeah, he's very like spot on as far as like how investigations go and the mindset of like cops and the politics of that world. I think he does a great job there. But yeah, I'd say just to name a few there. I like Jeffrey Deaver's another really good. Right, I don't know if you know his series. He does like Lincoln Rhyme series. What's another one that he does? I don't know, but he's a pretty good like thriller writer where he writes like kind of Criminal Minds-esque stories that are really fast paced. So yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, and to answer your question with 16 authors, but no, sorry.
You're like all of them. I love all of them.
Yeah, I do. I really do. Like I said, they all affected me in a way, and I have a certain love for each of them. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, our oldest daughter likes Criminal Minds. She like binge watches those things.
She does. She's like, Mom, you want to watch it with me? I'm like, okay. But as soon as it gets to anything that has to do with kids, I'm like, I'm out.
Oh,
I can't. Like James Patterson, I love him. He's like one of my like go-to ones forever. And then as my kids started getting older, like some of the stuff you're like, oh my gosh, this could happen in real life. And I'm just like, I can't read it anymore. It just gets a little.
Yeah, her version of like a horror movie is like anything that could possibly happen in real life.
I'm out.
Oh man,
I'm out.
Did my book just terrify you?
Oh my god!
I'm so sorry.
I like anything that's just like this happens in real life. It just makes me sad. So I'm like, give me something frilly a little bit. Just the feel good factor.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's good that you shouldn't be like happy about it, right?
I mean, when we first started dating, it used to weird Brian out because I would watch Snapped. What was the other one?
As we're falling asleep.
Yeah.
Or at least I was falling asleep. I'm not sure if I'm waking up. But
and SVU, he was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "This is great. It's just like mind-numbing type stuff." And then as
How to Get Away with Murder.
Yeah, serial killer documentaries. Yeah.
Brian's like, "I love you."
She likes the shows where it's like within an hour they have investigation, they wrap it up, the show's done, and then they start it all over again the next day.
The final, like you have that like finality at the end of each episode. So you're like, oh, justice is served. Like that guy. Yeah.
Like I can go to sleep now. My brain is calm.
Now, like the first episode lasted 5 years. The first episode lasted 1 hour, and they're done.
They solved the entire crime.
Hey, that's
yeah.
I mean, I wish it was like that. Like, I would love that. In fact, that'd be great.
Sign me up for that.
Yeah. Hey, wherever that's happening, I'm going, honey. Yeah. Just kidding.
I love it.
So,
you got this all written up. Your next one, you think maybe like a year?
Oh, yeah. So my next, like, are you asking when I'm planning on releasing it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to get it released this summer. Is my goal. So a couple months away is my goal. I mean, obviously it could change with, scheduling conflicts and whatnot with the narrator, editors and whatnot, because they have their own lives they're living, right? But yeah, that's my goal. Is summertime. The story is set in summertime too. Just a little bit about it. It's set during the 2020 wildfires that happened.
The last one was during wintertime.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this one's about 7 months later.
Okay.
And so I based it off of that time. It's just such a like haunting time, I think, for Oregonians in general.
Yeah.
And then I mixed in another problem that Warren's got to deal with amongst the wildfires. So I just, it's kind of a 24-hour period set story. It all happens in like one day and night, and it's very fast paced. It's like I said, it's an addition. Like it's gonna feel different from Tribal Honor. Like Tribal Honor was my first book. I really wanted people to know these characters in that way. At the end, they've really felt connected. And then in the second book, I kind of hit the ground running more. It's like and built off of that and kind of had that fast paced, snappy feel. So that's what my goal is for the next one.
What about like a book tour? Do you do
book tour?
Yeah.
No, I've just been doing some like book signings
Okay.
around here, like going to businesses and
How do those go over
work?
around here? I mean, is it
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, I've been like pretty lucky because like so many people just are super supportive. Like people
Yeah.
just, yeah, I'll come and hang out with you and like and sign and
Yeah.
they're great. So I just go to like a gym like and just say, hey, I'm doing, I'll post it on Facebook or something, and people will just come in with their books and I sign them and talk to them about it, and it's really fun. It's just like just basically a social event. You have food and stuff there, and but yeah, it's different than vibe than most parties, like because people just come in, they get their book signed, talk to you for 5 minutes, and they leave, and another one comes in. But yeah, it's been pretty good. It's really good, like publicity for the book too. I think so.
I was in Vegas one time. We were walking through like they've got like a mall area downtown, and I saw Pete Rose sitting at a little table
Yeah.
with his book by himself. It was so sad looking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that'll happen. Like if I went outside
Don't share that story.
Oh no, I mean, like I said, if I probably went to like Washington or like California where people didn't really know me as well, yeah, I'm sure I would.
You just
be
sit
Pete
there like
Rose.
this, like, do you want to read my book? It's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. No, I mean, if I bring my wife, she'll just chase people down and be like, "Hey, get over here!
You are reading
This
this
is a
book?"
great book. Great book. Read it right now."
Just, hey, have you heard about this book here?
Yeah. Throws it like a frisbee at somebody, hits them in the face. No, yeah. So, yeah, no, I definitely that definitely could happen. So, but
It's always good to have your wife there as your cheerleader
oh my
a
goodness.
little bit.
Yeah, like put her and my mother together. It's just like, dude, like
Super fans.
I don't need any other cheering in my life. I mean, I have it, but I don't need it because I have those two. I mean, whether it's CrossFit or writing or anything else, like you should hear her at a CrossFit competition, man. I mean, those things get loud, music's bumping, people screaming, yelling, and stuff, and I can hear her above everyone.
Your wife?
Oh yeah.
I love it.
Just yeah. Don't stop, keep going, and I'm like,
You got to have your spouse on board with you, or else it's just
110%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she is totally all in 110% of the time, and yeah, I'm like I said, I'm very fortunate. A lot of like my success has come because of my wife and my mom and my dad, and things like that. I honestly, people ask me like, how do you do it? It's like because I have them. Like I couldn't,
that support system.
Yeah, I couldn't be a CrossFit athlete working out 2 hours a day, working a job that takes me away for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
I mean, I just couldn't do that. I mean, I have brothers and sisters, and they all just like adapt for me. Like in a way, I'm pretty freaking selfish. Like I mean, because I think about it, they all like are like, oh, it's okay, you worked at night, we'll do this at another time, like a family event. Like, and they all do it like 7
They're like,
people.
we'll have the baby another day.
Right. It's like, it's crazy. Like, and it's like, I know not everyone has that. So I'm like I said, I'm beside myself every day. And I wake up and I have that. And like I said, and I think that's kind of made its way in the novel too a little bit, how the main character's kind of got his own dark issues, but he's got his family that kind of keeps him centered. And yeah. So anyways, like I said, I wouldn't have got anywhere without them. So.
Awesome. So I know like as a new author, probably you don't have people just like paying you to write these books.
No.
Yeah. There's probably a big investment up front for you to kind of go through the steps of getting it published. And,
Yeah, no, I just I saved a lot of money. Like for years, I was just kind of like stashing away, and I was kind of looking up how much it was going to cost me.
How much does it cost to publish? Or do we even want to know?
Don't remind me, because then I won't publish another one. No, I try to just ignore it and just go, oh, it's.
He may have told his wife a different number. So.
It was a couple grand. I mean, it's like when you got the editors and the narrator and all that added together, it's it gets up there, and so. Like I said, it's something I really wanted to do. So I just, over the years, I was like, stash it away. Like, I'm going to do this. And so that's what I did. And, it's crazy because then there's like inflation. So like now we have to take that into consideration. Like the prices are going up, So, but that's, like I said, I just keep adapting. I mean, I think that's just life. You just adapt and try to overcome that challenge and do it if you really want it, right? You just find a way to make it happen.
So when as far as the hard copy versions of your book, do you have to buy like a certain crate amount that you say, hey, I want 1,000 copies, or is it like as people over the years buy the book?
Like, you mean like this copy?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Did I have like a set goal in mind? Is that what your question is?
Well, I mean, just like if someone goes on and orders a book, I mean,
yeah, so it's like on Amazon,
Barnes
and Noble, bookstores, it's actually a Sun River bookstore. It's it's an awesome bookstore if you ever want to hear listen to good music and read a book. But they have it actually like displayed next to the Longmire series. I don't know.
Oh, that's
Oh,
awesome.
Yeah, it's really it was awesome. Like Longmire is another series I love.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the author that wrote Longmire, he actually does book signings at this store. And so I went in there and was like, hey, I'm a new author. I'd like to, get my book in the store. I just was thinking they just stuff it in the back or whatever. But this lady like read it, looked at it, and was like, oh yeah, we'll put you right up next to Craig. And I'm like, who's Craig? I'm like, wait a minute, that's the name. I look behind me and there's this big Longmire like poster and his whole, and they're going to put me right next to him.
You're like, here? I'm
Yeah, I was
going
like,
right here.
this Craig? She's like, yeah, oh yeah, like it's a similar novel and it looks like it's doing well. I was like, sweet. So anyway, so like bookstores and stuff like that, you can find it. I'd say Amazon's probably the best area to get a book because there's the audiobook, the ebook, the audiobook's all like right there, one click away. But yeah, so.
That's awesome. Oh, I mean, the nice thing about writing a book is, especially something like this, there's no lifespan to it. It's not like this is like, someone writing like some sort of documentary about something that just happens like really big at that moment and then it fades away. Mm-hmm. Whereas this is something you can pick up years from now, read it, and it still applies to, people can still enjoy it. So
yeah,
I think it's a good investment for you.
Well, thank you.
Over the years, you're going to probably have dips where it goes down, and all of a sudden people, find it again, and you start selling
catches
more.
on like wildfire.
Yeah.
That's the idea. So how do we support you as far as getting the word out for your book so you can get excited about writing your next one?
Because we're waiting.
Yeah.
Just saying, no pressure at all. But
Okay. Terrify us some more with some real story. No,
I'll sleep great.
Yeah. So I'd say like probably one of the best ways is leaving like a review or a rating on Amazon. I'd say that's one of the biggest ones because people that don't know me usually
It's almost like a Google review for
right,
like businesses, that type of thing.
And not that it's not like everyone has to write a review or anything because I understand that might not be comfortable for people, but just clicking like 5-star rating and leaving it at that helps. Like it really puts food on the table for me. Like it's super important. Yeah, that's probably the main thing.
Email list.
Oh, and
The email list.
Oh, email list on my author's page
on your
yeah,
website.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, sorry. But anyways, so yeah, but those are the two things. Like I said, I'd say the reviews and ratings. That's what's really like propelled the book. Because I just kind of was messaging people like, hey, like I'm gonna send you a free copy. Like, would you mind writing a review, a good honest review afterwards? And like people were like, yeah, I'll do that. And like it was a huge reception. People like everybody I sent it to were like, yeah, I'll do that, and they write this awesome like review on Amazon, and people like see that and go, oh, okay, I'll give
Like
this
I
new
have to
author
read
a
this
try.
book now.
And it was funny because I was talking to Stacy, who knows other writers and stuff, and she was like, wait a minute, that worked? Like everybody wrote a review that you sent it to? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, that is not everyone's experience, because sometimes they'll send them a copy and they'll go, oh, cool, and not read it. And so then you send a bunch of copies that are out there that just like...
That's, just kind of the world we live in right now. It's just like we were talking about on a past episode with like social media, is like you put out this amazing thing and you can't get anybody to look at it or like it. It's like, oh.
Yeah, it's tough. So, I mean, I think that like my goal, and it's like, I'm very ambitious if you can't tell, but I would love to like keep painting this, bringing a light to Oregon. And like I was just telling someone the other day, I was like, it'd be so cool if like they wanted to make it a TV show. Like I mean,
be amazing.
and so like, and I'm like, but for me to get there, I gotta like really get people, because I mean, there's a lot of competition, like Netflix and stuff. Like people rather just watch TV nowadays than read a book. So, really that's the challenge of like, okay, how do I get people to want to read this book? And so the reviews really help, and I think good honest reviews, right? I don't want just people to get on there and go, it's awesome, right? Like
great book,
right? But like those authentic, I think people can read authentic reviews and be like, okay, like that's real, he read the book and they liked it, or and things like that. So yeah, and part of, for me, if I'm gonna put out this work for people, it's a big thing. I mean, it takes time to read a book. Like that's time that people don't get back, right? And so I take that serious when I'm writing. Like I'm like, if they're going to spend their time reading my book and supporting me, like I'm going to write the most entertaining, realistic, awesome story I can do, because that means a lot to me that they're doing that they're going to support me. And so that's how I do it, and then that's kind of that's the business I'm running, I guess. So
well, it gets energized for doing future work too. I mean, it's like you're not just doing it for yourself. And then it's almost like you feel obligated to push yourself to your limits to try to get more and more out for people.
Oh yeah, you see a good review from someone and like, oh my God, I'm like running around the house. I'm like, I'm the next Stephen King, honey. I'm so great. Yeah. And she's like, okay, let's calm down. Like, one review and it's from your mom.
Yeah.
But, you know.
So the restaurants, yeah, you see how they're looking at me?
Yeah,
Obviously.
I know.
Do you know me?
Yeah.
I feel like
It won the Jack Eden award there. That's the gold badge on it.
Yeah. How'd you get that?
Yeah, so we applied for this competition. Well, my wife applied for me. 'Cause, anyway, she was just like, this looks like a good competition for you to do. And so I was like, okay. And so you basically just send them your book, and there's like 200, 300 nominations, like people just apply all over. And it's like this company, I think, out of Chicago. So I had no expectations. I was like, oh, okay, like they're not going to know some Western, the Oregon guy. They're going to just kind of look at it and stuff it, right?
Yeah.
And so she sends it off, and a few months later, this person left a review on their website. Like, they really liked it, gave a 5-star review, and I was like, oh, cool. And so I was like, well, that's the step in the right direction. Maybe I'll actually win an award. And then, like, a month later, they released the winners of the contest that we put in for, and I won the Jack Eden Award, which was, like, Best Contemporary Drama for the most realistic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was like, the criteria was, like, you have to write, like, painfully real stories with characters that could live in the real world with you, and so that was like part of there was other stuff too. I was just paraphrasing, but so we won that, and that was like really like a huge moment, like at that point in my career, because I was like, oh my god, like
Your first book, and
yeah,
it's got this
I was like,
on it.
it was like, and a lot of the reviews were like, you wouldn't believe that it was his first book, and I was like, well, technically I wrote 2 that are garbage, but but
Third time's a charm.
yeah,
It's gotta be defeating for some authors, because I've gone on and it stopped me from rating a book. It's like you go in like, I wonder what this is about, and then you see a review, it's like, ooh,
yeah.
it's like, I don't want to put my time into this now, and try it myself, so I'm gonna skip it.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, and my my wife has to like constantly remind me of this too, is that like you're gonna get, like, the more success you get, the more likely you're gonna draw in the other attention that's not so positive.
The trolls.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so recently I've had that happen where I was like, oh, it's happening, I'm getting canceled. Like, I'm like, I'm the worst author ever. Like, and she's just like, nope, that's a good, like, that's a sign of success. Like, even Stephen King has 1-star reviews from people that just like didn't like that he used curse language in his book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so yeah, it's a constant battle, because in my head I'm like, because you're always worried, like they're always worried, like, are people going to receive this the way that I visioned, and that's all I want, really, at the end of the day, is that people feel what I feel when I put the words on paper. And so, yeah, it's in a way you're almost kind of like sensitive, like almost like, I mean, I wouldn't describe myself as super sensitive, but in writing,
I'm crying suddenly.
in writing, I'm like sitting there with my hands like, just like, oh, I can't do this anymore, like I'm terrible. But then you see that positive review, like I said, won that award, and then you're like, okay, it overrides that. Like, you're like, okay, you stay on the path, like this is what I'm supposed to do. And it was funny, won that award. Again, I'm running around the house, jumping around like a child, and she's like, okay, just, that's great. But like, let's stay in the pocket. Like, you still got work to do, And
Gary's gotten those reviews, like, I saw your ad, it was really loud, and like 1 star.
I had one in a movie theater one time, and it was like, yeah, it was literally, your ad was very loud, I'm deaf now, thanks. And I'm like,
What?
I don't control the movie theater volume.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why does this guy hate me? Brian's like, come on, let's put this in perspective. I'm like,
Yeah.
It's like the more good reviews you have, the bury them, the better. I mean, it's just like you're gonna get those, but
Yeah, you can't unfortunately can't control it, and you just hope those people are in a better place after. You know what I mean?
I'm like, do you feel
sometimes it
better?
actually feels. I mean,
Yeah.
if someone, it's like one of the comments. If someone makes a bad comment, and all of a sudden everybody piles on them, it's like, I got.
That's what happened. Like,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, these local people that knew me that were like, how dare you? She's a wonderful person. I
It's
was
like we're just
yeah.
like flipping through it. It's like,
That's great, right?
Yeah,
Just
it's
let
great.
them do. Yeah, that's
I'm
what
like, I love everyone.
That's what you gotta do. Like you just gotta kill them with kindness, right? You just gotta be like, yep, that's, like I said, I hope they're in a better place.
Yeah, I'll pray for them.
Yeah, bless them,
Yeah.
bless their heart. So yeah.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming out here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This was, I mean, I've had a good time reading the book. I can't wait for your new one to come out.
Thank you.
So maybe we get to have you back on later on when you come out with another one.
I would love that.
Oh, awesome.
That'd
I
be
love talking to you guys. This is fun. It's a great time.
All right.
I love it.
Well, you can find your book on both your website You want to plug your website?
Yeah, so www.tgbrownbooks.com, and then obviously Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Those are the two main ones. If you just Google Tribal Honor TG Brown, it'll pop up, and it's pretty easy to find there. So,
and we'll put the links on the description on the podcast, so people can just click on it too.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks
again for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.